Hi everyone, good afternoon, and all you geeksters out there who's going to join us for today's live with Red Dot Diva. And it's a very, very special episode for two reasons. One, my friend and local artist Elvin Ching is here today with me, and we'll be chatting about his first creator owned graphic novel called The WOODSMAN, which you can see in the screen here. So pretty, so dark, so bloody. And then number two, ta-da-da, the number two reason is this is the first anniversary of Life with Red Dot Diva, and I was so happy to be able to celebrate with you. Woo! I even have a. I'm so happy. Right, Alvin, this is gonna be like my first anniversary, and I'm so glad that you're here to celebrate with me. I remember the time when, yeah, yay! I didn't even expect to hold this live with Red Dot Diva session for so long. Actually, it came from a place of frustration during circuit breaker, and Joelyn wanted to launch Joelyn Alexandra, for those who are not familiar with her, and she actually collaborated with Elvin with Unstable Foundations. You can see here. And she wanted to launch a zine expanding this universe, and I was like, having been in circuit breaker, I was so frustrated that I know so many talented people in this region, and they don't have a platform in order to showcase or talk about their experiences. So here we are, and thanks so much for all the other guests that have been on live with Red Dot Diva for the last 1 year or so. So, Elvin, how are you today? To introduce yourself to those who are not familiar with you yet, and talk about a little bit about your experience, how to come to being a freelance artist.
Wow. Hi everyone, I'm Elvin, author of the WOODSMAN, which we're promoting today. Wow. Where to start? This one is like.
What was your first job? I mean, when you decided that you actually really want to go to have a career doing art.
I mean, it has to start at comics lah. As a kid, I always wanted to be a comic artist, but thankfully my dad has some common sense lah. He knows Singapore, so he pushed me into the next closest one, which I didn't mind. Which was graphic design. So I studied graphic design and graduated as a graphic designer here. Worked a few years, then in a nutshell, worked a few years in offices, then came out freelance as a graphic designer / illustrator. Yeah.
Yeah, and then tell us, those who are not familiar, what are the projects that you have done so far?
Do you mean comic projects?
Yes, comics basically.
Oh, it's a short list. I mean, yeah, because I'm a bit of a procrastinator, but I have done short stories. I think notable ones would be for Liquid City, the comics anthology that was spearheaded by Sunny Liu. So I did 2 stories for that. One for, I think it was volumes 2 and 3. Yeah, 1 story each. And then I did some short stories for Lonta as well. Also the anthology by Epigram. So then it led to, I'm sure I've forgotten something in between. There's Badang.
There's this one.
It was very, very fun. Yeah, I worked with.
Actually, I got to know you from this Badang comic book. It was like, wow, so hunky. The biceps very nice. Then I started to interview you for the blog. And, our friendship actually started.
I mean, this was perfect. The brief sold to me was make it like a superhero comic. So, okay, yeah. So then I'll just draw it like a superhero origin story.
Yeah. I'm just sad that I don't really usually, I've never attended an NDP as a rehearsal audience or whatever. So I'm kind of sad I was not able to get hold of the actual physical copy. I mean, if anybody out there doesn't want that and they have an extra one, please give it to me.
You don't have Badang.
No, I don't have the physical copy. I only got a PDF that you actually sent me to, read and be able to review
Yeah.
it. But yeah, the physical copy is like a rare thing, a very rare thing.
Collector's edition now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still
Hi,
looking
Joelyn.
for it. Oh, we have some people joining us, and it's Joelyn. We're mentioning you just now as the very first guest of Live with Red Dot Diva. It's like 1 year since then. And then, hi, Ellen. Oh, really? Did you manage to clean up your work studio?
Yeah, Alan knows it's very messy, but it's fake, Alan. All the messes move to here.
Okay, after Badang, what happened after that?
Okay, I'm not going. I'm sure I'm going to forget stuff in between, but I think the one we have to mention would be Unstable Foundations, which was
Right.
you could say that officially that would be my full-length graphic novel that I drew, but I didn't write it. Yeah, it was written by Joelyn. So yeah.
Really awesome. Let me just put up these the cover as well so that people can see it better. That's the one.
I actually love this cover.
Actually, I really enjoyed your artwork in this particular book because it's like there's this clean lines, right? And yet there was this interesting stories going up, like familiar places that we have walked through the halls before. And I understand that you also were involved in the character design. Was that true?
Yes, but I mean, with Joelyn, of course, she helped. She described the characters to me, and then I just drew them up.
And but would that be a collaboration again? I've never seen this before.
It's not out of the books, but because it takes time, so you have to see, and then you have to see what Joelyn comes up with also. But I wouldn't put it, put it out of the realm of possibility.
And Joelyn said you make this comic so amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Since we are now leading into, your current book that's out called The WOODSMAN, and I was reading through some of your, your profile and all that, and you were also a storyboardist, right? I think you worked on some ads before as well, McDonald's, wasn't it?
Did you say again? The McDonald's ads?
You're a storyboardist, right? Storyboard.
Yeah.
So I think you did work on some ads before, right? Was it McDonald's?
It was, well, that was some time back. It was one of the Samurai Burger ads. So it was fun drawing ninjas and samurais.
And my question was that as a storyboard artist, right, did it give you a kind of like special eye into drawing sequential art? That's what comics basically is about, when it works through panels and movements.
Yes. In fact, the two professional, like comic artists and storyboard, very closely related. Or you could even say comic books and movies. You can see how comic books are translated into movies. Yeah. So I always try to draw it from as a cinematic experience. So indeed all the storyboard experience did come into play. I don't know how to describe it, but some people will say the opposite actually. Even that if you are a storyboard artist, it will help comics, and if you're a comic artist, it will help storyboards. So they both are.
So the reverse is kind of true as well. That's why a lot of that are involved in games as well, because it's kind of similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started as a comic book fan since I was a kid, and then it led me to storyboarding, and then storyboarding kind of helped comics.
Go back.
It's very funny because now that you mentioned storyboarding and my experience in the filmmaking, video making industry here as a storyboard artist is really connected, because every once in a while I'll get one of those ads or campaigns which allows me to draw more comic book style action sequences. And then I remember a friend once commented, "Hey, wow, this one, because sometimes the director doesn't know, so I have to make it up as, you know, a kind of a fight sequence."
Mm-hmm.
And then this friend of mine who was working on the project also said, "Hey, you should be a fight choreographer." Actually, that gave me the confidence to do the fight sequences in the WOODSMAN.
Yeah, I saw that full splash page.
And then, of course, yeah,
we'll get more into that later on.
the splash page. I'm more sure the splash page at some point.
So when you're talking about that, I suppose I was curious to know whether you did thumbnails for this particular comic before you actually went to draw. Is that not this anyway? Like, do artists actually do that for comic books artists? Do they just go straight into drawing or pictures?
Some don't. Many of them do, you know, but I think it depends on your drawing style. You know, I know people like James Tan and Drew Tan. They're wow, I can draw on the fly one, you know, like, you know, stuff anywhere. So I really told them. But for me, I'm very, for lack of a better word, very anal, very OCD. So everything must be very, very planned and controlled. And actually, there are a few comic artists I know are like that. So thumbnails are pretty much a standard. Yeah.
Okay. I guess it helps them to place the space for bubbles or things like that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And then the angle and the overall, it helps you plan whether, you know, should this left and right, you know, especially when you keep changing angle, so you can plan it. It is okay. Then I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet here, but I had no idea. But
please do.
At least here, in comics, amongst the comics people, I'm quite ridiculous with my thumbnails, to the point where my friends once, they're also comic artists, who once said, "Oh wow, I think just print the thumbnail, can you?"
Hey, you know, you're in good standing because, okay, I mean, people out there will know that I'm a big fan of Zack Snyder. Whether you like him or not, I'm not going to argue about that. But yes, I'm a big fan of Zack Snyder, and been following, you know, his latest boost of fame because of Justice League and the Army of the Dead. So been actually very interested to find out how he comes up with this, because everyone, even though we hate him, knows that he kind of does his scenes very pretty one. Everyone will say, yeah, Zack Snyder story don't know lah, but look very nice. So basically, he's like you know, he's an artist and he does draw his thumbnails. And he has shared some thumbnails of the storyboarding for Justice League and Army of the Dead to those people that his bunch of friends at Vero. I've seen some who have posted them on Reddit or whatever, and they are really almost like you can just use this to publish off. So you are in good stead.
I'm also humbled because then you think that my thumbnails are good. Then you look at things like the Lucas Arts thumbnails.
Oh yeah. You know, it's just like the passion, and as you say, the way that I'm really wowed by you guys actually, because I sometimes feel as if like I have all these ideas in my head, but I cannot condense it. And you guys can condense it in a picture.
It certainly helps when, you know, you're in charge of the story and you're also the artist.
We have Wen with us as well. Hello, Wen. Woohoo! Oh, if you guys have any questions, like very nosy questions, right, for Elvin, please post down below and we'll from time to time pick it up and answer them while we chat.
Easy questions. Don't ask me about the meaning of life. I can't help you.
Right. now we are coming to the meat of our live stream, which is about the WOODSMAN published by the awesome people at Epigram Books. Share with us the journey that got you to this actual book that you have. Show us again. Show us. I'm so jealous. I haven't even got mine. But they did send me an email to say that, oh, your comics are in the post. Please look out for them in 2 to 3 days. Yeah, I can't wait to get my hands on it. You mentioned to me, I mean, when we were, chatting to prepare for this live stream, and you were saying that this has been in the works for a very long time, right?
Yes.
So, what inspired the idea in the first place? And, why did it take so long?
What inspired depression? No. Okay, it may be a bit of a sad story, but it's not that sad. Not that sad, lah. I mean, it's just something which I always wanted to do. Firstly, I always wanted to do a graphic novel on my own, and well, maybe not on my own, lah, but at least draw in the style which I wanted to, a style that felt very 100% me. Because all this time, not to say my projects have been terrible or something. It's been, I always challenge myself to draw other people's stories. It's quite fun in its own right. But I thought, it's time to do my own thing. And at that time also, so this thing just was building up at the back of my head, and then it just came forward, and it took so long because there were life, always, bills, stuff to distract. By the way, to the audience, I'm sorry I'm looking off camera because it's easier to look at Tina. So, where was I?
You're saying that life took over, bills and such.
Yeah. And you could call it a midlife crisis or something. Like, it comes to a point where something inside snaps, right? And you really just drop everything and say, no, I got to get this started. Yeah. So I always wanted to draw a fantasy story. This book is really everything about everything that I love, which is there's a bit of kung fu, there's horror, there's fantasy, of course, and there were also technical issues stopping me from putting this out earlier, which was that I couldn't stick to a style which I wanted to. Then I realized that the casual sketching style is exactly what I needed. And
very manga-ish.
What?
Very manga.
Yeah, I know. It's like you start sketching, but it becomes very controlled. So I had to let go of that for this one. So anyway, sorry, back to the what's the timeline? Nothing much to it, actually, because this story, I just built it along the way, and then around beginning of 2019, okay, I thought, okay, this is as ready as it is. I'm ready to draw, and then I started drawing it then. Yeah.
So did you have the story in mind first, or did some of it float concurrently while you were developing your thumbnails? Yeah.
Actually, the theme came to mind before the story because I was feeling emotional with the theme, and the theme was things like what was it? I think I reflected back to my life because my comic book aspirations were going nowhere. Maybe because I'm a slacker and I procrastinate a lot, and I keep hitting the wrong direction. So it felt like I was fighting an impossible enemy. So that's where it started. I started thinking, what if I do a story about fighting an impossible enemy where it's high likelihood you're going to lose? Would you still fight as well? So that's where the story started.
I know that there's also, by the way, I did actually manage to have a sneak peek, but we decided not to we are going to be spoiler free, so we are not going to actually talk much about the actual story of the book, so that when you have it in your hands, you can experience it, just like this, and of course, Elvin would love to hear your reactions from that first read. But then when I was having a first look at that, and there was an introduction by Dave Chua, who said that it was a glorious read, something like this,
Thank
right?
you, Dave.
And I really do agree with him. It was a glorious read. I enjoyed it very much, even though it was a how you say, there wasn't much text like conversations involved in there, and it was more of focusing on the actions and the emotions, but it was still a glorious read.
That's what I wasn't feeling confident about, because it's like it's not the usual graphic novel. That's why if it's akin to filmmaking, I'll call it a short film. It's actually a very simple story.
Yeah, it's like a quick short film, but it does have very strong. The visuals help to pull in together the emotions that was the theme of the book. And I know one of the themes that you mentioned, it was like about your dad as well, right? There was other figure inside.
In a way, there's some personal issues I put inside, but at the end of the day, right, the appearance of the story is a fun comic story. That's why I didn't want to dwell too much on the chim stuff.
But still, as a first-time reader, I did feel that though. I mean, it did come to my mind, as in there was a kind of like a tribute, like I felt in a way. I'm not sure if I'm way off in that sense, but maybe some of you guys have different opinions when you read it. But that was how I felt when I saw that scene, and not just that scene as well. The first few scenes. I know very here, but yeah. Maybe when you read it after what I've said, you can agree or disagree with me, but that's what I thought, like family and fatherhood. Something unusual as well when I learned about the WOODSMAN being published. First of all, it's kind of unusual in the sense that for most of what we see as termed as singlet is always based on Singapore landscape history, like the many graphic novels we see published by COSH Studio. Even Epigram has a slew of books and comic books that relate to such things, and even the art of Charlie Chan Hok Chai is also Singaporean based, but yours was really like something I dreamed of in many many years. Like I want something that's not Singapore but made by a Singapore based person, and it's like a fantasy story that will take me somewhere else, kind of thing. And yours kind of fit the bill, and I was so surprised that it actually was picked up by Epigram. Did they tell you, what made them choose that? Because I know they are so well known for singlet.
Yeah. They never told me why they chose that. I remember I did bring it up, but they never addressed it. Because I was surprised when they picked they approved it to be published. So I think I made a comment like, oh, I thought you only do like local context, stories. But they never answered.
Well,
so I cannot answer for Epigram.
Epigram people actually tune in to this live stream or is somewhere. I'm actually glad that you're expanding and deciding to take the risk for, I feel that it's time that we can show the world that we can tell good stories that are not necessarily very, very Singapore based. I mean, that's how Hollywood makes their money. They are doing something so American based, and yet the whole world is, picking up on their culture and the way they speak, and what their viewpoints are. And well, that's actually my wish, to be able to see that happen to Singaporean created works in the future. And so I was kind of like, yes, this is happening. This is like like a first step towards something
Yeah.
more
I think
interesting.
we discussed this, right? Not that there's anything wrong with local context, because some of them are really good,
Yeah,
but
of
yeah,
course.
yeah. But it's just something that didn't work for me because I grew up reading X-Men, Batman, and then it's like that's where my mindset is. And then someone would say, "Why don't you make a Singapore Batman, Singapore X-Men?" Then I'll feel like
We are
doesn't
a bit wonder.
like for some of us like me, I would be forcing it, and it would come across very pretentious.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But I
Yeah,
do recognize, local culture is so important. Hopefully, we can work towards that, like with Sacred
correct.
Guardian. Yeah.
Yeah, like a mix. Yeah, Secret Guardian is another one that I'm, like supporting them because
Mm.
it's also something Southeast Asian, really. It has
Yeah.
Singaporean elements because of Singa, but then it's also be able to expand beyond just our very Singapore centric kind of
It,
thinking.
it has quite rich Southeast Asian and local context, but it
Yeah,
doesn't feel tied down to it.
correct. Yeah. I mean, yes, we are, as you are saying, also, I reiterate, there's nothing wrong with Singli. There's really some really good stories out there. But I feel that there's the pros and cons. The pros is that with Singli, we kind of feed each other within this silo. Like only Singaporeans really, really appreciate, understand. And whereas if you have something else that's a little bit wider, but has some Singaporean sensibilities in it, that's what, makes it more popular with other cultures, other audiences. I mean, if you look at the Filipinos who have managed to get Trece out in
Mm.
Netflix, that is awesome. I mean, that's what the should I say the government? I don't know, the authorities or whatever. Hopefully, they are able to be more open about this as well and not just support something that is very Singapore centric because it does help to get names out there regardless what kind of stories you actually tell, whether it be horror. I mean, we did have a discussion, right, with Terry previously in one of my live streams where we talk about genre
Yeah.
filmmaking, and this is like genre, literature and comic books. It's like the same thing. Joelyn has a comment. She says that local influence and culture will seep into your stories regardless. That's why forcing it by making sure it must be local is such a struggle. That is true.
Okay, with that point, I have to point out that very interestingly enough, I'm glad she said that, when you don't have to force it, right, it will come out naturally. And
Yeah,
on hindsight, when I look back at it, right, I look back at what I did for the Woodsman. So I look at the fight scenes, all these were inspired by this, by that, and what else? The Woodsman itself, actually, I drew him very Asian looking.
yeah, it's very manga.
I like a bit of diversity, but
Yeah,
especially like scenes where I saw what it triggered. I realized that I was drawing a lot of inspiration from my experience staying here in Singapore in the 80s, watching Hong Kong kung fu movies, like Sui Hak movies,
oh yeah.
and,
Sweet.
and then some people said there's a bit of manga element in it, which yeah, of course I read manga when I was growing up here as well, and
Yeah.
I realized that it's in some way indirectly it was a unique Singaporean experience because the Singapore geek had this, you know, the when we were growing up in the 80s, being equally exposed to manga culture from Japan, and then
Western
uh,
as well.
Western superheroes, so it's quite, and then Hong Kong, kung fu movies. So that I put that all into the Woodsman, and so in that way, you could say it's a Singaporean experience. Am I kidding? Hmm.
I'm just gonna put this on screen because this one is not really that spoiler. You shared it on your Facebook page as well.
Yeah,
The,
those one.
the fight scenes, and you can see the sample page that it's really very quite Asian. I love this.
Someone did say, "Wow, very manga."
Yeah, it is. But there was a lot of movement in your pages, which is what I like. I could like feel the heat of the moment, the speed, and the movements involved with the fight scene. And how long did you spend on doing that awesome splash page
Talking about that spread,
battle? Yeah,
that spread.
that spread.
About 2 weeks.
Wow.
Think about it. This is 2 pages in the comic, 2 weeks. And it wasn't just drawing it as I don't know if you saw the back. If you refer back to the back of the book, there's the sketch of it, right? Yeah. So I had to plan it.
Yeah.
And
did you rewatch some TV shows or movies with
firstly, all the Sweetheart collection, and then watching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Hero, all my kung fu movies.
One says the dynamism of the movement, so good.
Thank you. Wait till you see that spread.
Yeah, I know that spread. You're all very cryptic here.
But I think I'm very proud of that spread. I want to print it out as a poster. Yeah.
Wow.
I give them. Should I give them a sneak?
Yeah, sure. If you want to. I mean, if it's not,
I don't think it's that spoilery, huh?
Let me put you on solo. Zang, zang, zang.
Okay, that's enough. Remember, I said earlier that film industry friends said I can be a fight choreographer. Yeah, so that was what I was thinking when I was doing that. Okay, I'm going to choreograph the heck out of this fight.
In that same vein, though, would you ever consider if somebody were to invite you to do a short film? That means, do you feel confident that you're going to do that because some people have, connected you to the ability to do a fight scene? Therefore, do you think that being able to produce or kind of like direct and think of a short film is up your alley?
When you say do a short film, do you mean just conceptualize it or direct it?
I think that.
No, I probably don't have enough confidence to do it. Yeah.
Mm. But conceptualizing it will be more of your thing.
Yeah, I mean, someone would have to be. I can't play leader, but someone would kind of like push me, prod me, and then I see what I come up with. It's funny you went the storyboard route because, as you can imagine, I even in Temasek Poly where I graduated, right? I mix a lot with the video, the inner crowd. That's why, yeah, just so connected, yeah.
Do they think differently though? I mean, in terms so I guess for them, there's more of like technical knowledge as well, right? In terms of camera.
Yeah. So that's the part we can't handle.
Yeah, that's true. That's like a totally different. But some people mesh both so well. Just amazing.
But if I don't know who if Zack Snyder wants to turn the WOODSMAN into a film, yeah, I'm there. Mostly for money, but anyway, yeah. Yeah, as I told you, I
before I actually ran right into his behind the scenes thing. I never knew that Zack Snyder could draw so well. Like I thought, director, just use some other story bodies to go and draw. Then he just take the right. But he actually a whole storyboard himself.
That is, from what I know, is an asset when a filmmaker can draw. Then they can visualize it themselves. Yeah. The other one is this, I think, lesser known artist called, I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's Care Andrews. I don't know if you heard of it. He did Iron Fist comic.
Okay.
And yeah, quite good. And he's actually, his is the opposite. He started out, he's more well known as a comic artist. Then he became a filmmaker. But he's still drawing from time to time. But yeah.
Yeah.
So I would imagine his comic book skills really helped his filmmaking a lot. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, and for those out there, right, who haven't actually know that much about the WOODSMAN, it's actually a horror kind of story, right? And there's quite a lot of gore in it. I mean, for me, gore is nothing much because I'm into certain kinds of horror, and fan of The Walking Dead, so all this splash and blood scenes and all that is fine with me. But I guess it's a bit more gory than usual, in my opinion, for some Singapore books, especially comic books created locally. Um, do you think it's a bit too graphic for some people? I mean, were there any advisory for the books? I'm wondering whether, I'm wondering whether if, the library were able to put that in because it's
Yeah.
a bit too bloody.
I mean, personally, to me, especially in 2021, I really don't feel I'm, this is the wrong term to use, but breaking new ground in gore, I think people can handle it, even kids can handle it, but that's me personally. There's another part of me that is actually quite surprised they didn't put an advisory on it, because I'm not sure if certain people here will be able to accept it,
Yeah. Mm.
But quite honestly, they did much gory stuff in the 80s. I don't know if you remember the old Pontianak comic. That was so gory. The swinging breasts and all.
Anyway, the Asian ghoulies are very gory or what? Like
Yeah.
exposed entrails floating around, all this kind of thing.
Yeah. You know what? When small spoiler, there are entrails inside. And when I was drawing those spoilers, I was thinking exactly of those comics, Yeah. I wanted to be gory like when I was growing up as a kid reading those Pontianak comics.
So I don't know. I mean, I think that I don't know about the kids. Basically, maybe some are okay, some are not okay. But I think the parents might be the one that's gonna cry out, out problems like this. But Epigram is brave enough to handle any other criticisms. So anyway, I think you agree as well that notoriety might boost up the comics profile even more.
Yeah, but I've thought about it. Then I had to hold myself back. Stop being so narcissistic. Like, no one will give a care about it. For all you know, it'll fade into nothing. Just, no self-esteem, me holding back my ego.
Oh, and hello, Mark is here. Hey, Mark!
Woo!
Celebratory drinks.
Sorry, Mark. All you gotta get is Red Dot Diva, sponsored by yours.
Poor Mark is not able to ship the book across to him. And we gotta wait till everything is better, and then hopefully we'll be able to meet each other again.
Yeah. Oh, how do you know about that? Because of the comments, is it?
Yeah, about his comments. It's like, oh no, he's denied shipping.
No, it was a technical issue, and anyway, I'm going to settle it for him, so it should be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can just post it to him if he really wants it. Oh, one has an interesting comment. I heard some foreign comics had to recolor the blood in some violent scenes involving familiar heroes. Luckily, the color version of this comic is not out yet. That version
I'm not going to color it. But funny enough, I did save all these. I mean, you've seen the book, Tina, so you've seen there's a lot of blood. Yeah. I actually saved all the blood on a different layer, thinking that one day, it will never be colored, but if it does, then I can easily change all the blood to red.
Would you like it to be colored though? I mean, would that be one of your desires that it ends up being a colored version?
Yes, actually. Now that the black and white version is out, so
Yeah.
I love black and white, but now there's a black and white version that exists, right? Which I always feel there should be a black and white version. Then, yeah, why not? If there's an option for color, then there'll be two versions.
Would you do it yourself, or would you rather get a colorist?
Oh, wow, this is tough.
What, you OCD?
No, I think it's more of you want a sense of ownership, like you did everything, but I wouldn't be OCD about quality, because I know there are lots of fantastic colorists out there, and they would do a fantastic job. So, but then I wouldn't feel like I did everything on my own. Like this is partial. But yeah, color version sounds good.
Yeah. Probably in the future. Edition 2.
Jinx myself. The American edition.
Oh wow.
I
Translated
wish.
languages. Tagalog.
That's taking it too far.
Why not lah? I mean, it's I think translation is an easier route to. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it would. If it becomes popular, but like I said, I'm just at this point, I don't know where it'll go. I'm just happy it got published. That's like.
But I guess, yeah, digital will be the next move. I think it should be. Then people will download it. It will get even more popular.
Yeah. Well, crossing fingers. I did suggest it. I did bring it up. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Does Epicron's Portal have any digital versions yet, or they only
do?
Oh,
I didn't do an extensive search, but I think more digital books, not so much digital graphic novels. So I'm not sure whether there is that I missed out on.
Okay. Nice. Maybe yours will be one of the first. You also mentioned in passing to me that the Woodsman is kind of like more you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to delve a bit deeper into that? Like in what?
How to say? I think like everything that I told you before already. Doing my own thing I guess it's in comparison to all my previous projects, right? Which except for the short stories. But even if the short stories are, if you run through all my short stories in Liquid Cities, they are different styles. So in that sense, I had some kind of a ADD. I couldn't settle on one style that I could feel, that I could connect with. But at the same time, I'm still proud of them because I pulled it off. But it wasn't like, it was like visiting lovely places to visit, friends' homes, but I haven't found my own home yet. So this one, I'm not saying that this is my definitive style, but it felt right. Okay. It felt like for in the future I will draw in different styles because, as I said, a bit of ADD when it comes to drawing. So all over the place. But this one felt right, and I think I proved it because I could never finish long-term projects before, because by the time I reached page 20, the style is different from page 1. But this one, wow, it felt really right because from page 1 to around 79, 80, it never changed, and every day I got up, I felt very pumped to do it. It was like my purpose in life. Yeah. So that felt right, and I always wanted to do a fantasy story, as I told you.
Sync with it, Now that the book is out, right? I think some people mentioned that once your book is out, like a baby is being born already. Does it make you kind of like what the feeling? What's the feeling like? Your very first created story that's out in print.
I haven't fully digested it yet. It's more like I have been dreaming of this moment, but it feels like the whole journey has been running, and then now it's like trying to catch your breath at the end, and so you don't really think that I finished the race. So I'm still processing.
Does it make you hungry to do another one in the future?
Yes, it does. But I don't know what it is yet.
This is like I mean, after so long, brewing this thing in your mind and in your soul, I think it's kind of like catharsis for me. If I were you, it would be like a great relief that I've actually birthed this book. It's out for the world to see now. It's no longer in my hands.
Exactly. You feel so possessive about it because it's your baby, but at the same time, you must remember all babies must be released to the world.
Oh, wow.
No, seriously, I'm at two ends of it. Part of me is like, does care about what people think. Of course, I want people to like it, but it's okay if they don't, because different tastes. But another part of me, like, don't I don't mean don't care, but more like I'm satisfied already, because
Yeah,
ultimately I did this comic for myself.
correct.
It's, yeah, you can see the dedication is so narcissistic. Dedicated. So
No, in
it,
a way, narcissistic is not the. I don't think it's really the a precise word to use, because every
yeah,
time I feel that every time a creator does something, it's like it's part of you, as you say, it's part of you that is out for the world to evaluate. I think it's a very brave thing to do, because for myself, I'm not sure if, like when I was younger, right? Um, when I was in secondary school, I used to write a lot, like stories, fantastical stories. I would go on as adventures like an archaeologist in Egypt or something like this, and have murder stories and semi-romance and all kind of thing. And it went into like pages and pages. But I lost those books anyway. I don't know where it went to. And I stopped doing that somehow when you got older, because you kind of like got more aware of what people think of you. I just never really got back into that groove, even though I wish I had I had that the time, as well as the uh, like being brave enough to do that, to expose myself, I should say, to the world again about how I think, how my stories are. It does take quite a bit out from me, and it's why I'm always very like full of admiration for creators out there, because a part of you is just like there for everyone to see. Um, I don't know whether I'll be able to get to that point again.
look,
You
I
know, when
relate.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I was younger, even though then my stories, they weren't shared actually. They were just like with my best friend, and sometimes during composition time, right, my secondary school teachers knew that we were quite adept in English. So she allowed us to, she didn't give us a topic. She said, okay, you guys, you want to write whatever you wrote. And I was just like writing stories, and I always got like A or something like this, because my mind was like imagining something else. Um, but it was just within this small thing. It never went out per se. I don't really know whether I'll be able to do that. Which is what Ryan is also asking you. After creating this, did you feel like you emptied your soul?
it felt that way, certainly, yes. I mean, as I said, it's a lot of the themes are change is personal, but you won't see in the story. It's just a fun adventure fantasy book, but the spirit in making it, yeah, I did feel like I emptied my soul into it.
um, okay, what do you think actually now that, it seems like, as I was mentioning, I was surprised that Epigram actually decided to publish this like non-Singapore centric book, and something so brave like with horror and, a landscape that was not familiar to us in the physical world. Uh, I'm kind of hopeful, but I'm not sure what your opinion is, and what do you think would improve and boost the situation with comic books regarding the local scene at this point? Post, currently while we are deep in pandemic, and out into hopefully able to see each other more again.
What do you think? What do I think will boost that?
Yeah. What do you think are the next steps we can do? Either the publishers, the creators, the readers, or people like me who are more supporters of the art scene in general. What do you think are the actual steps we can take to help each other boost the local comic book scene, in terms of having more like, creative things out there rather than just consumers? We actually create.
Uh, quite. I know I'm going to give an answer, and then when the stream ends, I'm going to have a better answer. As far as efforts wise, I don't think that where the scene is doing anything that they shouldn't be doing already. but what I feel Singapore is limited by is definitely our size, you know, our population. We simply don't have a large enough a variety of, you know, of a population to support the local comics art scene, which is why, you know, people are always doing this as a part-time thing and they never find the budget easily for it, you know. So I empathize not just as an artist to other comic people or, you know, creatives. I also empathize with the publishers. It's, you know, it's not that, you know, they don't want to do more of it, but
Yeah.
because it's not as easy to find an audience here.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
but what I would say that keep for the local artists or creatives who are doing comics here, just keep doing what you do. But
Mhm.
which the goal has always been to continually day by day improve the standard. Which, you know, and of course, you know, I hope I'm not uh, abusing anyone by saying this, but it's good to give yourself a discount by saying, you know, local standards, but at some point you have to start comparing yourself on international level, you know,
Absolutely.
to get better. Yeah. So so I don't have a exact answer to that because it's a
Mm.
big question. But
Yeah, I guess that's a very complex
but
issue.
I would say, yeah, the example we can fall back on is which is the Filipino scene, which I really admire because
Yeah,
it's
no, man.
right? On some way, they are like in between. They're not, you know, like full on American geek culture, but they have their own culture which they are pushing, and they're very encouraging
They've been
towards
very
each other.
good in the last 5 years or so with establishing their own kind of culture and profile in terms of their pop culture in the comic book scene, especially. I mean, for decades, right, they have been using Filipino artists in the big publishers, but nobody knew about them as well. Like, there are not many big names that you know who have worked so hard for all the comics that people have been consuming on the other side of the world. And right now,
Yeah,
it's like they are getting more well known, uh, which is really good. And like Tracey is out of Netflix, you know.
yeah, yeah. I was just watching that. It's really good.
Yeah.
And so the culture there is, sorry not to put down Singaporeans because this is not all Singaporeans. It's just in general. I feel the culture there is the opposite of Singapore, whereby Singapore, the
Very
generic maybe yeah
you're
non-fan will
very practical
oh
people.
local book oh then the quality is going to be lower. Whereas over there it's like oh local book definitely you know must support. Of course you know yeah Singaporeans
Again, as the generation changes with the young people, this might
yeah
also change. And I'm hoping that's the wave that's going to change as well. Uh, because identity is a question also, like a big question right now. Previously, we have that, the kind of story that we are told in school and as we were growing up about the founding of Singapore and all that kind of thing. And things are quite very, very different right now, when we were easily sold on a certain way of storytelling. And right now, it's like everybody's questioning things in the whole. I mean, it's just not even happening in Singapore. As you can see, some of the tragedies that have been unfolding in Canada itself,
mm,
questioning it as well. So I'm just hoping that that's one thing that the younger people, as they get more familiar with their voice and how Singapore identity is framed, that they are not going to think that, oh, just because it's made in Singapore, it's going to be flat and unimaginative, and
yeah
boring.
exactly.
Yeah,
So so in that sense both uh of course, as for the artist side, they do need to continue to up their standard. But then for the audience side, they hopefully more and
change
more
the
progressively the
mindset. Yeah,
mindset will change. Yeah.
yeah, hopefully. Well, we are hoping, and which is why um, this live stream is also about that in terms of we are discussing all about this and having our voices out there and hopefully who knows, somebody might be able to yeah, this is something that we could probably change and do. That is what I'm hoping. I'm also have been putting my voice out there in terms like part of my soul out there by doing this. I usually am a very private person, so this has been a kind of like a journey for me as well. So I'm so glad that everyone who has been able to tune in or be a guest here. It's part of my journey. I'm so happy because this is like, again, my first anniversary.
Yeah. I was about to say, even though you stopped writing, which, I hope you'll pick it up eventually, but this whole Red Dot Diva identity and stream, in a way, is kind of an extension of your writing, of your creativity as well. So good for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hopefully you'll continue. If not, at
Well,
least this will be here in posterity until Facebook decides to close.
then move to Twitch.
All right. We actually chat a lot. We are left about 5 minutes, and if anybody has any other nosy questions for Elvin, please, put it on your comments below before we start to wrap up, and we'll answer them. And as we are going to end this session, there is something controversial I want to ask you.
Oh, okay. This is going to be scary.
Are cats or dogs better companions for artists?
Oh my goodness. Are you trying to get me into trouble?
That's why I say controversial.
Oh, cats. Cats are better for artists.
How many do you have?
3.
3?
Yeah.
Do you allow them into your studio?
No.
There you go.
I don't know how Jerry Teo, how he does it.
Yes, I'm all over the place.
House and he just lets them come over and Jerry, lock your room. Yeah. That's why he gets so much trouble with cats. Okay, no, seriously. Funny enough, and don't tell my cats this. I'm actually a dog. I'm a dog person. When I was younger, huh?
How do you end up with them? How do you end up with them being a dog lover?
I didn't end up. I started out as a dog lover. As I was a kid, we had dogs. We didn't have cats. Yeah. And I love dogs. I still, I loved and love dogs. Still love them. But I also love cats. Yeah. But on a practical level, what you're asking me honestly, and I'll tell you honestly, cats are better for artists because one, less effort. You don't have to take them out for walks. Yeah. So easy, and they look after themselves. You don't have, they'll do their business in the right place. So that's the very practical reason. Other than that, I love both. If I'm not wrong, they are cheaper, and most artists are poor. So cats.
Probably, yeah, maybe. I think dogs really need a lot of attention. Yeah, they won't just you need to take care of them.
Yes. Yeah. So I see. One just asked, maybe I'm an animal person. I feel I get along fine with all animals too. Right? I'm an animal person. I must be, because actually when I grew up I stayed at my grandfather's place when I was a kid, and we grew up with we had 3 pug dogs. We had tortoise, hamsters, fish. One of the tortoise got one of those big ones that we put in a giant urn thing, all in the shop house.
Wow.
And at one point I did have 1 cat. I had mice as well, both voluntary and involuntary, because I stayed in an old shop house. There were rats running above, and there was some that I kept in my hand. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to stay in a terrace house in Joo Chiat, and we had owned 3 dogs before. 2 big dogs. 1 died because of an accident. My dad didn't leash her, and she ran across the ECP. It was a German Shepherd. It was like a beautiful German Shepherd. And then the first dog I had was my Pomeranian, who was such a bee. Oh my God, she was so difficult. This small little furry ball, right? But nasty, really nasty. She was not nice at all. Pomeranians are not nice.
The nastiest dogs are the smallest. And then my cousin had this little Chihuahua. The loudest thing ever.
Not nice. No, but she was vicious. She actually chased two two workmen who were supposed to repair something in my house, and she was back, right? She was like, she chased them, and suddenly I saw this small furry thing running from behind the backyard. Yeah, and two grown men, right, running, and climb on top of the head.
Yeah, I don't know why, it's always Pomeranians. Something about their tiny little snout. They look like vampire bats chasing you or something.
And I used to have rabbits, and then guinea pigs,
I have rabbits,
hamsters, and then chickens. Of course, they became food. And then, but my family didn't really like cats, so I didn't really own one. Doesn't mean I don't like cats though, but I never did. We didn't have experience owning one. Yeah. Oh, we had songbirds as well. My dad loved the Shama bird. And
yeah. We had budgies too, and then I was typical. We really fished out these guppies from the longkang and then kept them.
Yeah, those were the days. Now it's kind of expensive to own a dog. I want to own one again, but oh my god, I see the price, and it's just like I don't have that kind of like time. I mean, I do, but because I live with my parents, so they'll be they are getting older, and it's just more difficult for them. Probably when I'm alone again, I might have a dog companion because I miss having a pet.
Yeah.
It's nice to have something like you can take care of, like you put your mind off something that's not you, and have your attention somewhere else.
And that's another thing about cats, sometimes they're like, go away, I need my alone time. Whereas with dogs, they never want alone time. They want to be with you always. So better for artists to have cats. Because you never get to draw.
That's true. All right, that was an interesting furry discussion. You're all like animal lovers here. Do you have a dream project, and what's up next? We say goodbye.
Before I answer that, Red Dot Diva sponsored by SPCA. Okay. So what was it again? Do I have a dream project?
Yeah. Do you have a dream?
I probably do, but and I'm going to think of it after the stream ends. It always happens, but but maybe I haven't dream up of it yet. But the feeling will come. If it's something like the WOODSMAN, then that would be my next dream project. Yeah.
Do you have anything up next that you want other people to look out for it, or?
Well, it's not official yet, but it's still in proposal stage. But so I don't know if I can mention it. But so I'll just say it. I'm working with a writer on a comic book / poetry book. So that'll be something. I hope it works out. Yeah, and I must give it to him for this vision. I know maybe it's been done before, but I don't think it is quite often done locally. Where he's a writer, he's a poet, and he writes poems, and he wants me to interpret it into a comic book story. So that'll be interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's something to look out for, guys, from Elvin. We're gonna wrap it up soon, but before you leave the screen, I'm just gonna pop myself out first and tell them about July's live streams that's coming out.
July!
Yeah, right. For July, there are 2 live with Red Dot Diva. Two. The first one is on the 17th of July at nighttime, 10 p.m. Okay. First of all, it's nighttime because we're going to be very spooky time for us. And the second reason is because there'll be creators who are based in Canada, and they are 12 hours behind us. So it's a special one. It'll be a first live stream where I'll have creators from the other side of the globe. It's about a indie horror comic series named Damned Cursed Children. And it's the first time that the 3 creators will be on board with me for this live stream. They are Howard Wong, Josh Stafford, and a local artist that people don't seem to know yet. So I'm very interested to meet him. His name is Robin Simon Ng. And this is going to be an interesting conversation about Damn Cursed Children. The trade is out, but I don't know where or which bookstore might carry that in Singapore. I'm not sure yet, but I think it's available to be ordered online via their publisher called Source Point Press. Then the second one, there'll be an interesting guest, which I shall keep it secret at the moment. It will be a female creator, and she will be the one doing the end of the month live stream in July. Look out for the announcements. Probably by first week of July, we'll be able to announce her name. Thank you for joining us. Elvin and I are just happy that some of you are here chatting with us and interacting with us. If you have any other questions or comments, you can either pop down in the comments below and tag Elvin, or you can, if you know him, you can directly message him. I think the books are going to be out from Epigram stores right at this moment. We should be able to get them next week, I hope. By that time, I'm so curious to see what you guys think about the WOODSMAN, right, Elvin? I can't wait for their reactions.
Yes, morbid curiosity. My hand just recovered.
Yeah, he has been signing how many books? 70?
Close to 7. I think the final count was around 67, maybe.
The pre-orders. So some of you will get to see some of his sketches and his signatures as well. As for me, I want to go and meet him in person. All right, thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you again. We'll see you again online, and most probably on the 17th of July, 10 p.m. Join me as we talk about Damn Cursed Children. All right, bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks.